Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's FPC NFL Sunday, and it's week 13 here in the NFL. Thanksgiving, that was last week. It's over. It's done with. It's December. It's holiday season. It's Christmas season, Hanukkah season, all that fun stuff. And we're kind of gearing up for the last leg of the NFL season. So that's pretty exciting. And the biggest storyline of the weekend, Mr. Joe Flacco is going to be starting for the Browns, and that just begs the question, Tom, you still have time to come back. You can come back and play for a handful of teams. And again, Bengals, look at the Bengals. They could come back and you could win a Super Bowl with them. If Miami wants to guarantee a Super Bowl, kick Tua to the curb, bring in Tom Brady. Kansas City could do that too. But hey, that's just me. I might be the only one that believes that opinion. We'll see. But no, anyways, obviously Joe Flacco coming in, starting for the Cleveland Browns, his rival for so many years, following the season-ending injury to Deshaun Watson. Look, I mean, good for Cleveland. I mean, they have a defense that can win some football games, but we know in this league that defense isn't, the old adage, defense wins championships, just isn't true. And I've been saying this for years, but it's become more and more true every year. I mean, you can have a great defense, Jets, Cleveland. Doesn't matter if you don't have an offense. And I'm not saying Joe Flacco is going to come in here and light up the league, but he's a veteran guy who has Super Bowl and playoff experience. And look, I mean, we're not talking about a career arcing discussion with him, but when it comes to a singular playoff run, it's hard to find one that's much better than Joe Flacco's in 2012 when the Ravens won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that game at the Broncos is obviously the one that probably sticks out the most to me. I can't remember the safety for Denver. I want to say Stewart maybe was the last name, but obviously
Sounds
that Hail
familiar,
Mary
yeah.
kind of throw to, I think it was Jacoby Jones. That game was so memorable. It seems like that kind of Ravens group. You kind of had obviously the end of the Ray Lewis era, but there was so many guys that kind of short lived, I guess. In terms of maybe near the top of the league success. With the weapons they had on offense, but um, yeah, Joe Flacco. It would really be interesting to see. Four teams or a team have four quarterbacks win a game in the same season right now. When it's some of these other teams that are kind of in the muddy middle. You look at Derek Carr and the Saints. You kind of look at Geno Smith and the Seahawks. Even when they seem to figure some things out, they can't get really some of these big wins. So for Cleveland, if they can keep it rolling with Joe Flacco, we've talked about it this year. If there's any year that someone comes out of nowhere to win the Super Bowl, this could be it. I don't know if Cleveland's going to be that team, but they haven't obviously fully imploded yet, and they've had some big wins against some teams that right now are in the playoff picture. So it is going to be interesting to just see how he looks, how quickly he's going to be thrust into action after he was signed. But with the Rams, I don't think that's obviously the most daunting defense to have to face. Of course, Aaron Donald's still there, but mostly a young group that he's going to be going up against today.
Well, again, and like I said before, the Cleveland defense is good enough that they don't need to put up a bunch of points immediately, and they're certainly set up to be, a team that's probably better led by a veteran. At least in this situation where it's like, look, you have a chance to go out and like for Cleveland, even going out and winning a playoff game or two, even that would be a successful season this year, I believe, and I think that's important enough for them to go out and not just, again, punt the season away after, you lose your starting quarterback. So that's going to be pretty fascinating to watch. So I said this on Friday on FBC Radio Live, switching gears a little bit to Thursday Night Football. I've held out, I guess, giving praise to Dak Prescott for a long time. I've criticized. Like last year I left a sour taste in my mouth. I always thought he was a pretty good quarterback, not a great quarterback. I'm not ready to make a definitive claim yet. But what I am ready to do is say, you know what, I can't not mention him now among, certainly for this season, the MVP. We talk about C.J. Stroud, we talk about Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. Obviously, has kind of the lead right now, and can certainly cement that even further with a big win over San Francisco this weekend. But it's hard to find a quarterback playing better football over the last month or two than Dak Prescott. And for a while, I was down kind of on the competition. It's like, well, you play the Giants twice and the Commanders. Well, yeah, you're going to put up some points, and I don't know how much I want to put weight on that. But at the end of the day, we're in week 13. You can't ignore it forever. So, yeah, I mean, Dak, another really good performance and a very entertaining Thursday night game. Uh, can't I mean, look, when you're ranking MVP candidates, it's hard to put them too far down the list if not just behind Jalen Hurts, because again, performance wise across the board, he's probably the most consistent in a season where we see a different quarterback pretty much lead a different category. So it's not one guy leading a handful of categories. It's several different guys at the top of each, and that's kind of muddied the waters because we don't really know who's that guy. So it feels like it's defaulting to Jalen Hurts. Not defaulting, but he's on the team with the best record, and he obviously would deserve it. Just not like, I'm not saying that they're just, oh, we're just going to give it to him, but there's an opportunity for a guy like Dak to come in and his performance outweigh the Eagles team record if they do finish above him.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. That I think played as good as anyone really since that Chargers Monday night game. That was really, I think, one of the first times I said in a while. That was, I think, one of the best games I've seen Dak play. Recently he's had kind of the numbers to back it up, but there for a while I think he was just really playing the position. I think you want to see your quarterback play it, make the correct decisions, not always the most flashy ones or the ones that are maybe going to gain you the most aggressive kind of style points. So I think that's what also has been good for Dak because he's making a lot of the correct decisions. I think kind of an underrated part of that is you kind of saw Thursday night him adjusting some plays at the line of scrimmage and just really helping himself out with the protection. Setting up some kind of quick check down throws. I think that's something that obviously not a lot of people may notice. Is he's just kind of really making these things easier on himself and on his teammates on the offensive side. So you're starting to get the numbers to kind of back it up, but I think just seeing those decisions and kind of those little things, probably nothing that's gonna maybe blow MVP voters away, but I think just in terms of just playing the quarterback position, he's probably done it as consistently right now as anybody, really, really in all facets. So but yeah, I think 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I want to say maybe going into Thursday night. I'm not sure what those numbers are exactly now, but just over the last 2 months, yeah, there's probably been no one as good as him. Um, Obviously, next year will be the last year of his current deal. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas kind of comes through on that extension this offseason. Just kind of gauging what the market is. I would not be surprised if it's kind of a similar, maybe restructure to what Patrick Mahomes just got this past September. But yeah, it's obviously probably no better timing for him, and now it's just about coming through in the playoffs and getting them further than obviously they got last season.
Yeah, and right now, obviously, he leads the league in touchdown passes and yards. Obviously, he has a game up on most his competitors outside of Josh Allen, but also, nudged ahead of Brock Purdy for QBR lead according to ESPN. Right up there, passer rating. If you want to give that any sort of attention, I guess you could. I don't, but yeah, I mean, he's right up there, and it's hard to argue at this point, and
Right.
the crazy thing, I'm looking at this, it's funny, like Brock Purdy is a yard clear in average per yard attempt. It's pretty funny how that works out and how we talk about Brock Purdy as being kind of just a guy. But no, anyways, so like you look across the board and like obviously, that's going to change after these games are played this weekend. He's probably not going to be in the lead, at least yards wise, maybe touchdowns. I mean, Josh Allen, I think, is a couple shy of him right now, but they're at least
Yeah.
on the same level in terms of how many games they've played. They've each played 12. So, um, Josh Allen would be playing a 13th game today. So yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to it's hard to it's just hard to ignore it at this point. Like I've tried to, not in any sort of vendetta, but like I said before when we started this conversation, I've been having a hard time believing Dak Prescott is anything more than a pretty good quarterback. And in this day and age, I mean that's a pretty good advantage to have as a team. I just don't, or didn't, or still don't, or I'm on the fence about him being, an elite quarterback. Maybe the rest of the season and into the playoffs can change my mind, because all of a sudden you ride this into the playoffs and you start beating playoff teams. Now all of a sudden, now you can't really look away from it. So, anyways, big news for me in terms of fantasy football. Very important matchup this week, and with no Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss takes a front row seat again, and fortunately for me, he's on my team, and I held on to him this whole time. So I'm hoping for a pretty big game out of him today. But let's jump into our picks, because we got what, 3, 6, 9, 12 games, 12 games to pick today, and we're going to start with the Chargers. A fantasy question, sure. See, smart move. Look at that. See, Kyle agrees with me, and if Kyle agrees with me and says it's a smart move, I'm pretty happy about it. I've actually made some pretty strategic moves throughout the season, having Tank Dell before he blew up. He's been pretty clutch for me. Mike Evans has actually been a very, especially the last 6 or 7 weeks, touchdown every game, and did pick up Odell Beckham Jr. the other a couple weeks ago, and got one really good game out of him. We'll see what happens next week. So, like I said, this is the first time in a while I've actually been competitive this late in the season in fantasy football. So I'm excited. Anyways, New England is hosting the Chargers, and according to Sean Merriman, the Patriots haven't scored over 45 points since Paul Revere. Which, look, there's so many stupid things about that comment. But the most stupid thing about that comment is that just 4 years ago or 3 years ago, Cam Newton and the Patriots beat the Chargers 45-0. So it's kind of, it's not going to happen this week. Yeah, the Chargers are probably going to win. Actually, I'm picking the Chargers to win. I hope the Chargers win. But it was still a very stupid comment from Sean Merriman, who has a very petty grudge against the team that ruined his one and only shot to win a Super Bowl. So I understand why he's being petty. Why he's being stupid, I don't know. I mean, that's a question for another day. You could literally just look up the last matchup between these two teams and figure out that comment was dumb. But nonetheless, the Chargers are probably going to win this week because, well, I think Patriots are playing Bailey Zappi, and there's really no difference between him and Mac Jones. So any sort of hope, hype, anything, that's going to go out the window pretty quickly. So I'll take the Chargers.
I'll go with the Chargers as well. Knowing them, I think this game being in New England, even more potential, I think, for charging and a chance to really screw this up. But I think they'll still win it in a close one. I just think there's so much that has to go right, I think, for Bailey Zappi in this offense to outperform Justin Herbert. Obviously, he's not having his best season, but I think he'll be able to do enough himself to win this game. It's just how close is it going to be to another catastrophic disaster for LA? We'll see, but I'll go with Chargers in a close one.
All right, next we have Indianapolis heading to Tennessee, and despite my projection of Zach Moss having 500 yards on the ground, Tennessee's going to win this one. Look, I don't think Tennessee's a great team. I think these are two. Indy's been competitive, and I think there's a lot more positive with them moving forward, or at least more redeeming qualities. But I think at home, I'll flip a coin. I'll give Tennessee the edge.
Yeah, I'm right with you on the Colts. I think they're probably a better team here. They have been competitive. I've really been impressed with Shane Steichen in his first year, but this just feels like a division rivalry that's always kind of been split most years. So I kind of just have to chalk this up to maybe kind of a weird, unexplainable Titans ugly win. It's a defense that's probably playing their best stretch of the year too under Vrabel. So I think that's going to also help them in this one. I'll go with the Titans.
All right, next we have Miami heading to Washington. Maybe a handful of weeks ago, this might have been competitive. I don't think it's going to be. Washington, they fired the defensive coordinator. There's, reports that Ron Rivera is essentially a lame duck. They're without two of their biggest pass rushers after trading him. Yeah, this has the recipe of a Miami beatdown, but we understand what Miami is. They're a great offensive team, but this is like going to be like a 42-21, 42-28 type of matchup where it's like we know Miami's defense just isn't good, but their offense can score a lot of points, especially against bad teams, and I think that's what's going to happen today. So give me Miami.
Yeah, give me Miami as well. It's like you said, the Miami defense. It'll be interesting. I think Sam Howell was still kind of near the top of the league in passing yards somehow, not too long ago. So I'm sure he's still going to get some of his today. But if Dolphins don't score more than 35, I'd kind of be shocked. I think Washington last in the league right now in points allowed. So like the Dolphins in a high scoring one and to win big.
All right, next Detroit at New Orleans. Detroit disappointing last week. I think they bounced back this week, but they gotta. I think they got to figure things out because I'm worried about them. I feel like I bought into the hype a little bit too early, but yeah, I like Detroit here, but I want to see a pretty impressive victory on the road from them.
Yeah, I pick wise, I can't pick any team with Derek Carr at this current point. So yeah, my pick is the Lions, but
Or
it's
at any point, really.
yeah, yeah, but I Jared Goff does have to kind of step it back up. He's had I think what 8 or 9 combined turnovers maybe the last 2 games. So he can't afford to give it away against a defense like this who had a couple interceptions last week, still couldn't win the game. I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if it's close, but I'm just not going to pick anyone with Derek Carr right now.
All right, next Arizona at Pittsburgh, a rematch of that great Super Bowl back in the day. Not going to get that today, unfortunately. There, first of all, the stakes aren't as high, the teams aren't as good, and yeah. But I will, at the end of the day, I will go with the home team, and I'm going to go with Pittsburgh because I do think that they have the best unit on the field, and it should be somewhat entertaining. But I'll go with the Steelers.
I'll go with the Steelers as well. Not a whole lot to really say about this one. It will be interesting to see if Steelers can get over 400 yards for a second straight week. Cardinals defense, since Kyler's been back, they've been a little more competitive offensively, but defense has really kind of gone away from that since kind of the early part of the season. So be interesting to see how good of a day Kenny Pickett has, but I think Pittsburgh will win regardless.
All right, next we have Atlanta at the New York Jets, and saw something today that reports are Aaron Rodgers will not play this season. Surprise, surprise, folks. It was never going to happen. Okay. Like, I said it at the time, like, look, I'm not someone who believes that he didn't, like, there was someone out there that said he didn't, like, tear his Achilles. Look, we saw the video. We saw his calf pop. We saw the whole, the whole deal. We saw it happen. He tore his Achilles. My problem was there wasn't a chance there was no hope that he was going to come back and play this year. First of all, it would be impossible for him to heal. Second of all, it would be absolutely stupid for him to come back and take any sort of snaps in an NFL game this season. I thought it was all done kind of for a little bit of attention and whatever. We know who Aaron Rodgers is. So Jets fans, I'm sorry. He is not going to be taking snaps under center this season for you. So you just better hope that he comes back healthy enough next year because maybe you win this game. Maybe you do, but not this year. I think Atlanta takes this one. Not that I think Atlanta's anything good, but Desmond Ritter's played a little bit better. Atlanta has a kind of boomer bust type of style where it's like sometimes they can come out and surprise you. And not that this would be surprising, but on the road, I'll give Atlanta the upset. If it is an upset, I don't even know.
Yeah, I'll go with Atlanta as well. I'm glad to see Bijan Robinson starting to really hit his stride. I think at least 51 rushing yards, 4 straight games. He's had a couple 90-yard performances the last 2 weeks. So as long as he continues, I think, to get the touches he's getting, I think Atlanta's going to be fine. And really, this defense quietly still forced some turnovers when they've had the chance. So I like the Falcons in this one.
So far, I think we're 6 for 6. We've agreed on every single one of these so far. It's actually might be the first time. I think we might agree on this one too. Houston hosting Denver. Um, I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I mean, Denver's playing better football, and like I said, just like with Dak Prescott, I got to give credit where credit's due. Russell Wilson's having a nice season. Um, this defense has greatly rebounded from giving up 70 points. But I like Houston at home in this one. I think they're going to come out and win a pretty close game. Probably going to come down to the wire because that seems to be how Houston wins games now. Is they win in the last second. I think that's going to happen again this week. So give me Houston at home.
Yeah, give me Houston as well. I think it's actually kind of a weird thing where it may actually help them coming off a loss for this game,
Mhm.
looking to ruin a winning streak. Obviously Denver, Russell Wilson. We were talking about Dak Prescott's numbers. Russell Wilson somehow too, I think, has had the best touchdown interception ratio like over the last 2 months. So I just think this game it's really going to just come down to kind of just I think the way that Houston plays. I think that they're able to really push the pace. I don't know if Denver's you kind of look at their win streak. I don't know if they're going to be really able to keep up with that if Stroud continues to hit on these explosive plays down the field. So I like Houston in this one, but it's crazy how much better this game looks now than it did just a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, to say the least. I mean, we were probably laughing at this one certainly going into the season. Next, we have Carolina at Tampa Bay. Tampa is, kind of what they were before Tom Brady, and kind of what they were long before Tom Brady, and they're just kind of a team that they have some talent, but they just don't win a lot. And this week will be a little bit different though because they are playing Carolina, and if if you're going to ask me to pick the worst team in the league right now, it's probably Carolina. So I do like Tampa Bay at home in this one.
Yeah, it's always weird because of the firing coaches bump. You always think you're going to get that, and Tampa's definitely not a very good team right now compared to what we saw the first month of the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if they gave it away. But I got to go with the Bucks just because there's like you said, no one worse in the league right now. But with the rookie quarterback, I mean, there's just nothing around him to really I think put much fear into you. And I think this is a game that Todd Bowles somehow cannot screw up. So I'm going to say Bucks find a way, but I am worried about the fired coaches bumping this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't think Todd Bowles is long for for this job, regardless. But uh, if you're Tampa Bay, maybe you do want to at least win this one. Well, I don't know. Then again, it depends on what you want because I think they need to upgrade in a lot of areas. Obviously, quarterback being one, but coach being a big thing. So, all right, next one, probably the game of the week. Philadelphia hosting San Francisco. Seems strange that this is not a Sunday night football game or a Monday night football game or anything like that. But nonetheless, I took Philadelphia partly because one, they're at home, and look, I mean, they're 10-1. I mean, that you can't you can't argue that you are what your record it says you are, and you can't sit there and try to downplay it or anything like that. I think the Eagles are a very good team. I think they win in all sorts of different ways. I mean, they can play their not great football and still be competitive and still win football games. And apparently, unless you're the Washington Commanders, you just don't beat Jalen Hurts. So I like Philadelphia here. I think this game is going to live up to the hype. I think it's going to be a preview of the NFC Championship game, and I think it's going to be far more entertaining than the Sunday and Monday night games that we're going to get tonight or this weekend.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how Brock Purdy plays in this game, just because didn't really get obviously the full chance in that Philly environment to kind of prove himself last year. And I understand probably San Francisco probably more dangerous here in this position this time of year just because of that loss and how much it's going to haunt them, wanting that revenge. But I do just have to go with the Eagles because I think the way they kind of treat these big games is a little bit more sustainable than what San Francisco's done recently, and also just getting the Eagles as home dogs from a pick perspective. I think I can't pass that up. So yeah, I'm just really fascinated to see how Purdy does in this game. I think there's going to be maybe a good amount of points, hopefully, kind of like we saw with Philly and Buffalo last week. But have to go Eagles here. They're probably the best team in the league right now. Like you said, they find ways to win, and Unlike what people will be discussing later today with college football playoff, I mean, I think that's going to mean a little bit more, obviously, down the road this season than what people might say about Florida State or Alabama or any of those teams later today. So I got to go Eagles in this one, and just a little surprised they're home underdogs.
9 for 9 so far. You and I lock and step here. So we'll see. We'll see. We got 3 more to pick. We'll see if we're on the same page here. Cleveland at the Rams. We talked about Joe Flacco making his return. Sorry about that. Making his return. Look, I like Cleveland. I picked them before, to be honest, to win the game because I thought at the end, and you kind of touched on it with the Rams. They're just, it's not a, they're just not a great team. I mean, they wouldn't surprise me if they won. They have a lot, some great talent, some great players on their team. But I like Cleveland's defense. I think their offense will do enough to keep control of the ball and win this football game on the road. So give me the Browns.
Yeah, this is going to be the first one we have different. I can't really
Finally.
explain. Can't really explain, why I think Stafford just has found ways to win these last couple weeks. I don't really think the Browns are in danger of totally imploding, but I think just coming off the loss they had last week, a lot of turnovers, a lot of just kind of weird mistakes we have not seen up front from their defense. I'm just thinking this is maybe one of those stretches that just hard to get out of right away for Cleveland coming off that loss. So with the Rams, I think the wins they've gotten the last couple weeks, I think they're feeling pretty good. So I think it'll be probably a really entertaining game. Not a lot of people will probably care about this one as much in that window, but should be a fun one. But I'll go with the Rams.
All right, next we have Green Bay hosting the Chiefs. Look, I went with the Chiefs, but like Green Bay came off a pretty big win and has an extra few days of rest. Jordan Love has played a little bit better this last month or so. They're looking a little bit more like they were the first 4 weeks of the season. Not to say that they're a great team or anything, but at home, maybe they can surprise Kansas City. I don't think it's going to happen, but in 2023, that wouldn't necessarily surprise me because again, this isn't the Chiefs team that puts up 35 points every week. Green Bay could possibly surprise them at home on prime time. Who knows? But I am going with Kansas City on this one.
Yeah, the biggest thing obviously is going to be, can the Chiefs avoid a letdown after, 2 of their better offensive performances early in the year, home against Bears, home against Chargers. Obviously, some massive letdowns offensively. So after mostly positive week in Vegas last week, they got to try to avoid that. Obviously, I think last week was a good sign. I think if you're a Chiefs fan, that Rashee Rice, Travis Kelsey, Isaiah Pacheco kind of got the bulk of the touches. If they kind of continue that instead of, I think, dividing up the roles and kind of playing guys inconsistently with percentage of snaps, I think they'll be okay. I do like the Chiefs today. It's just going to be interesting to see, how much Jordan Love is able to take care of the football against this defense. 16.5 points per game allowed by the Chiefs this year. So I'm not expecting them to maybe light up the scoreboard, but just going to be interesting to see if Chiefs can force some turnovers and maybe run away with it, or if it's going to be more of a close game with Jordan Love continuing to improve like he has lately. So I got the Chiefs, but definitely not a lot in certainty on either side, I guess. Just with what I think we've seen lately.
Well, and I also think too we might find out pretty early on what kind of vibe the game's going to be. You know what I mean? It's one of those games where I think we'll get a better idea once the ball's snapped, and you're like, okay, I used to get this kind of with the Patriots. Sometimes it's just that first, those first couple of snaps, you kind of just get a feeling, okay, this is how this game's going to go, and I think we're going to get that with Kansas City and Green Bay. And like I said, I mean, I'm hoping it should be an entertaining game. It should be a fairly close game, but Kansas City is, Kansas City's obviously the favorite, and they should be. So, all right. Last but not least, Cincinnati at Jacksonville. Look, if Joe Burrow was there, I'd probably pick Cincinnati. So I'm begrudgingly taking Jacksonville at home because I'm kind of down on them lately. But I'll take Jacksonville because, well, I mean, there's no Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and that pretty much is it for them.
Yeah, no Joe Burrow, and even without him, I mean, this Bengals defense right now, really hasn't done anything all season. It's kind of weird to see this unit. I know secondary's a little bit younger. They lost some guys in free agency, but for whatever reason, the Bengals defense hasn't been able to find any momentum either. So, really think this could be kind of a blowout win for the Jags at home. I think they'll take care of business.
Yeah, no, and that will do it. So out of 12 games, we agreed on 11 of them. And of course, it's the Cleveland at Rams game, the one that has really absolutely it's going to mean nothing because well, we're probably going to start watching it, or at least I'm going to start watching it. Like, oh yeah, that's right, that's Joe Flacco. There's a reason why he retired. There's a reason why he hasn't played football in almost a calendar year. So, all right, that's going to do it for us here today. Be sure to stay tuned here in about a half hour or so. We got our buddy Kyle coming up, and he's going to talk to us all about fantasy football this week and what you should and shouldn't do. And I suggest you listen to him, as have I. So, and I know our fan, not just fan of the show, but fan of the site, Joel from Hull, our guy. I know he's really taken to Kyle's advice. So anyways, enjoy Sunday's games. Like I said, I think we're going to have a good, nice little slate today. And we will be back next Sunday to break down week 14. So thank you, everyone. And we'll talk to you then.